Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Part 182 based on novel. So let's start. Hoi Yu-hao was stunned. He only wanted to quickly leave, so why was he more well-liked now than he was in the previous blind date? He could still clearly remember that there were 17 sea god fairies the last time he was here. In the second segment, one lamp was extinguished for him, by Wu Feng. This time, all 16 lamps were still lit for him. None of the other students who went before him managed to keep all 16 lamps lit. In fact, this wasn't because of good fortune. The inner courtyard female students were all intelligent and strong. In addition, they had great taste. There were two main reasons why Hoi Yu-hao had all the lamps lit for him. First, it was his performance in the canteen. There had been a few female students taking their meal. They personally saw how Hoi Yu-hao frightened that middle-aged teacher without even unleashing his martial soul. How strong was that? Furthermore, he had a very special aura about him, even though he wasn't particularly handsome. No matter what, he easily caught their attention. The second reason was because of Tang Wutong. Although Tang Wutong had not been in the academy for a long time and was only a teaching assistant, she was still a student of the inner courtyard. She held two identities at once. Normally, she interacted quite a lot with the young women of the inner courtyard, and they respected her. After Zhong Leshuan, Han Ruoruo, Wu Ming, and the rest of the female seniors from the previous generation of students left, Tang Wutong was now the backbone of the current generation of female students in the inner courtyard. Furthermore, she was an exceptional beauty. When the other female students saw how Tang Wutong allowed Hoi Yu-hao to remove her bamboo hat without resisting, they were all astonished. This also deepened their interest in him. If even Tang Wutong approved of him, could he be ordinary? Thus, this magical result. Hoi Yu-hao's lips twisted a little. However, no matter what, everyone was vain to some extent. He felt slightly better after seeing that 16 lamps had been kept on for him. Naturally, he couldn't just fall into the lake as an escape measure. The segment continued. From the second row onwards, the male students weren't so lucky anymore. Since they didn't remove any bamboo hats, they didn't leave any deep impressions on the female students. Very soon, many of them were out of the blind date as all the lamps were extinguished for them. When the second segment ended, 18 of the young men had been eliminated. It was the highest elimination rate in recent years, exactly half of the young men were gone. Even so, there were still 2 more young men left than young women. The high elimination rate had something to do with the female students, too. They were all very outstanding, and good catches. Naturally, they were more demanding when it came to choosing their partners. Given the current situation, the ratio of female to male students was almost 1-to-1. The young men who remained bore high hopes that they could return with a lady in their arms. After the second segment ended, the remaining male students were rearranged again. Hoi Yu-hao, who only wanted to show his face at this ceremony, was arranged in first place after all the lamps were kept lit for him. He was now in the limelight. This time, Zhong Leshuan was the one who spoke. After the first 2 segments, I believe all of you should have some simple understanding of one another. Next, we shall begin the third segment, Love at Second Sight. This time, all female students should take note that you can't choose randomly as you did in the second segment. Once you make a choice, you must take responsibility for your choice. Every male student has a minute to introduce himself. After his self-introduction, he needs to come to me and tell me the number of the sea god's fairy that he fancies. After all the male students have made their introductions, the female students will make their choices. Your choice in this segment will be your final choice. You can't go back on it. After the choices are made, we'll proceed to the fourth segment. Male students, please take note that you can demonstrate what you believe is your greatest ability when you introduce yourself. You can also introduce your cultivation and other things. As long as you believe your words can capture the heart of your desired partner, you can mention anything. This time, we'll mess up the order and pick who goes first through lots, for the purpose of fairness. After hearing that, Hoi Yu-hao immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He couldn't fully recall these later segments. However, it was a good thing that he wasn't going to go first. He was just here to show his face. The first person we've picked out is Hui Yu Hao. What? Hui Yu Hao's face suddenly stiffened up again. Why am I still the first to go after picking lots? Hui Yu Hao, you can introduce yourself. You have 1 minute. Zhong Leshuan was definitely amused as she looked at Hui Yu Hao. Okay. Hui Yu Hao acknowledged her words and started to introduce himself. Hi everyone. My name is Hui Yu Hao. Hui Yu Hao drifted forward a few steps as he controlled the lotus leaf beneath him. Yes, he only said this line. That's all? Zhong Leshuan was infuriated. This fellow is indeed doing all he can to avoid the limelight. Hui Yu Hao nodded at Zhong Leshuan. He thought to himself. Since I'm just here to show my face, you can't possibly force me to say more than I want. However, who knew that his simple introduction piqued the curiosity of the female students? Zhong Leshuan snorted and said, your introduction is too simple. It won't be fair when our sea gods fairies make their choices. Since you're shy, I'll speak on your behalf. I'm shy? Hui Yu Hao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Zhong Leshuan cheerfully said, Hui Yu Hao is a student of the inner courtyard and a disciple of the Tang sect. After hearing this, Hui Yu Hao felt rather pleased. This was all true. Furthermore, she was advertising the Tang sect. Why did he not realize that this was a good way of advertising the Tang sect? Everyone from the inner courtyard was here. However, Zhong Leshuan's words after this left him looking more and more bitter. He joined Shrek Academy at the age of 11 and managed to emerge as eventual champion during his first test after joining the academy along with 2 of his teammates. After that, he revealed his shocking talent. He possesses twin martial souls. The last time the academy evaluated his abilities, we concluded that he was a soul sage. Currently, we are unsure of his abilities. He has taken part in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament twice. The first time, he was a substitute, but he eventually became the main force of the team. In the last fight, he turned the tables and defended Shrek's glory, emerging as the eventual champion. From then on, he was named as one of Shrek's 7 monsters along with his teammates. At the same time, he is also the main control-type soul master among Shrek's 7 monsters. He's their core and spiritual figure. During the second tournament, he represented the Tang sect, but there wasn't any result in the tournament due to a sinister ploy by the Sun Moon Empire. However, the top 2 teams back then belonged to both the Tang sect and Shrek Academy. His outstanding performance undoubtedly made him the most outstanding participant of the tournament. There's one more thing. Hui Yu Hao is the person who established the Spirit Pagoda. He's the inventor of spirits and is the current pagoda master of the Spirit Pagoda. Apart from this, he has also contributed greatly to the academy. There are many things that we can't reveal. However, the contributions that he has made have earned him a place in history as the youngest ever member of the Sea Gods Pavilion. He's the pride of the inner courtyard and a current elite. After hearing Zhong Leshuan's introduction, the entire place went quiet. Everyone was completely silent. All the Sea Gods fairies opened their mouths in shock as they stared at Hui Yu Hao. The other male students were equally shocked. If the other parts of the introduction didn't astound them, then finding out that Hui Yu Hao was the one who invented spirits and the person who established the Spirit Pagoda had deeply astonished them. All this while, no one really knew his name because he had a call sign in the academy. The Eye of the Azura, founder of the Spirit Pagoda, was a familiar character that every student in the academy knew. The Sea Gods Pavilion's youngest member and the founder of the Spirit Pagoda. These 2 identities were considered sacred in Shrek Academy. Jin Sho's jaw was almost on the ground by now. He couldn't believe that the person that he had talked to was actually a legendary senior from the academy. He didn't even dare tell his fellow students that were with him, because he knew that no one would believe him. After finishing her introduction, Zhong Leshuan smiled as she looked at Hui Yu Hao. Yu Hao, are you satisfied with my introduction of you? What else could Hui Yu Hao say? There was no way he could avoid attention now. He could only shake his head helplessly. It was only now that the shore of the lake started to become rowdy. Xian Lina furrowed her brow on the boat and said to Elder Xian, "Is it a good idea to put Yu Hao out like that? He doesn't seem too pleased." Elder Xian smiled and said, "What's so bad about this? He's going to be the leading figure of the new generation. It's time that everyone got familiar with him. Otherwise, he'll always skive." Yang Shaoxia nodded and said, "I agree with Elder Xian. Let me see. Given his current cultivation speed, he'll be able to take over from you directly." He. Are you trying to skive?" Elder Xian snapped. Yang Shaoxia smiled without saying anything. When he saw the helpless look on Hui Yuhao's face, he was gloating inside. Zhong Leshuan looked at Hui Yuhao again before continuing, "Because we have a phenomenal member of the Sea Gods Pavilion here today, we have decided to make some amendments to the usual rules for our Sea Gods fated blind date in order to make it fair for everyone. Now that we have reached this segment, I suggest that we allow this esteemed member of the Sea Gods Pavilion to proceed with all remaining segments first. All female students will be allowed to select him as your preferred candidate, but rest assured that all of you would still be able to select other candidates subsequently. This new measure will ensure a certain degree of fairness for the other male candidates. After all, even the Eye of the Azura can only leave with a single Sea God's fairy." After Zhong Leshuan finished her speech, she won the applause and praise of all the other male students. After all, who could compete with the Eye of the Azura? With him around, there was no way that the girls would choose anyone else. Even if there were some who did not show any interest in him, they were definitely in the minority. Since the original rules of the third round dictated that all of the girls could only choose their preferred male student once, this would mean that they would not be able to choose anyone else after selecting Hui Yuhao. Because Hui Yuhao ultimately could only leave with one person, this would be massively unfair for the rest of the young men. If the rules were not changed, wouldn't they end up being sideshows for Hui Yuhao's performance? Hence, Zhong Leshuan's suggestion was timely, and immensely well received by everyone. Hui Yuhao replied to Zhong Leshuan with a resigned tone, "Eldest senior sister, why must you push me into the limelight? But since things have come to this, I'll just go on and complete the remaining segments. Let's not hold up the blind date for the others." After coming to terms with his current situation, he just wanted to complete the segments as quickly as possible and retire to prepare for tomorrow's test. Zhong Leshuan nodded and announced, "All right, now let us begin the third segment, which will be specially conducted for the Eye of the Azura. Ladies, you may now begin to select him as your preferred candidate. If you have the slightest bit of inclination towards him, I would urge you not to miss this great opportunity. He will begin his graduation examination tomorrow, which means this will be his last time participating in our fated blind date." Hui Yuhao was stunned after hearing Zhong Leshuan's words. Is eldest senior sister dead set on messing up my world? The way to indicate interest was still the same as before, to leave their lamp on for him. As everyone had expected, because the ladies had 2 chances to leave their lamps on, all of the lamps present were left lit for him. Hui Yuhao was simply the brightest star among the other students around him. To Soul Masters, one's ability would always be more important than one's looks. Furthermore, Hui Yuhao was not bad-looking. Even the haughtiest ladies from the inner courtyard could not help but marvel at his fabled experiences. Hence, they all mustered their courage to give themselves a chance at being paired with the Eye of the Azura. After all, even if they were not chosen by him, they had nothing to lose because they could always choose another candidate. Despite seeing all 16 lamps lit for him, Hui Yuhao was surprisingly calm. He knew that he was just going through the motions. The stares from the crowd would not be able to do anything to him. So what if all the lamps were still lit? There was only room for Donga and Donga alone in his heart. He knew he just had to let them run the show, and he would leave immediately after everything ended. Zhong Leshuan and Han Ruoruo glanced at the 16 lamps and nodded gently. Han Ruoruo announced, "After mutual feelings, love at first sight and love at second sight, it's time to let fate decide the romance for our next 3 lives. Hence, our 4th segment is called Destined in 3 Lives. During this segment, I urge the other male students to pay attention to the proceedings. After all, it will be your turn very soon. During this segment, The ladies will take turns making their way to the one they have selected to introduce themselves. Hui Yu Hao, please take a step forward. Even though some of you, and I believe all of you know who I'm referring to, have plenty of charisma and are capable of attracting more than one female student, I must offer all of you an important reminder. At the end of this segment, if any of the male students are to end up without any interest from a single female student, I'm sorry, but you will have to leave our fated blind date. The rest of the young men will proceed to the final segment. It was one thing to select a male student as your preferred partner, it was another to possess the courage to step forward and confess to him. Under normal circumstances, Love at Second Sight was the segment where the female students would express their interest in the male students. However, it was only when the young women stepped forward and confessed courageously that everyone could determine how sincere their feelings were. Hence, Destined in 3 Lives could very well be the most important segment. All right. Now let us give our female students 3 minutes to make up their minds. After 3 minutes, all of you must make your decision. As of now, I can see that most of you admire Hui Yu Hao, and that is definitely understandable. After all, he is really outstanding. However, I must say that he isn't a guy who is suitable for every girl. When a guy is too outstanding, you must ask yourself if you possess the ability to hold his attention. While you still have a chance to continue with the fated blind date after getting rejected by Hui Yu Hao, the other male students will have taken note of your earlier decision regarding him. Hence, I urge all of our sea gods fairies to think twice before you make your decision. Your 3 minutes begin now. Hui Yu Hao gently controlled the lily pad beneath his feet and glided out gracefully before everyone. It appeared eldest senior sister had helped alleviate some of the worries on his mind. The worst thing that could have happened was for him to spoil the entire atmosphere at the fated blind date. That would have been terrible. The best thing would be for everyone to not select him. He would then be able to go through the entire process peacefully and smoothly. After hearing Zhong Leshuan's words, many female students began to question themselves. Am I able to occupy a place in Hui Yu Hao's heart? Even though standing firm on their decision would grant them an opportunity to be with him, it was apparent that the chances were extremely slim. In fact, they had noticed that Hui Yu Hao's face was fairly emotionless, and he had not even focused his eyes on any of them so far. It was only during the time he had lifted up Tang Wutong's bamboo hat that he had revealed a shocked expression. But even then, he had regained his composure very quickly. In fact, the way he left Tang Wutong behind looked as though he was trying to escape from her. Most of the young women felt that they could not hold a candle to Tang Wutong. If Wutong could not attract Hui Yu Hao, they were definitely not confident in their looks or ability. An overly outstanding guy could very easily make a lady insecure. All of the female students in the inner courtyard were not dumb, and while they hesitated over their decision initially, they made up their minds very quickly. 3 minutes passed very quickly, and Han Ruoruo spoke. Time's up. Now we will begin with Destined in 3 Lives. Because of Hui Yu Hao's special circumstances, we will first begin by determining how many of you are willing to select him as your preferred male student. Afterwards, we will begin with the self-introductions. Now, I will extinguish all of the lamps, and when I say begin, please light your lamps if you want to choose Hui Yu Hao as your preferred partner. Hold on, came a voice from the crowd. The person who spoke was none other than Tang Wutong. Han Ruoruo said, Wutong, is there a problem? Tang Wutong nodded, and glided forward on her lily pad. She left the area illuminated by the beam of light before turning around to face the 15 other ladies. Sisters, I have a request to make. I'm only here today for one person. And thus, I hope all of you can give me this chance. Can all of you do me this favor? Her words might have appeared to be a little ambiguous, but it was plain for everyone to see what she meant. Even though she spoke slowly, most of the ladies could sense the anxiety and desperation in her words. Zhong Leshuan frowned and spoke, Wutong, it's not right for you to pressure others to give up on Hui Yu Hao. It's not fair to the rest of them. Tang Wutong took a deep breath before replying, I'm sorry, eldest senior sister. But, she suddenly stopped speaking as her emotions became increasingly muddled. And to everyone's surprise, she bowed before all of the other female students and apologized, I'm sorry. I was too anxious. Let's treat it as though I didn't say anything. Let's continue with the proceedings. Following which, she controlled her lily pad and glided back to her previous position. Her head was now lowered as her eyebrows were locked into a deep frown. No one was sure what was on her mind, but they could all tell that she seemed to be in some sort of pain. After observing how she had acted, Hui Yuhao was similarly shocked. What's going on? It can't be because of me, right? Wutong, you better not be like Chioa. My heart belongs to someone already. Zhong Lishuan spoke sternly. I want to remind all of you to not act in the same way as Tang Wutong did. Whoever messes up the proceedings of the fated blind date will be kicked out. Let's ignore what she said and continue with the proceedings. Can we now extinguish the lights from the lamps? The 16 beams of light vanished, and all 16 female students were enshrouded in darkness. We now invite our female students to make their decisions. For those who are willing to introduce yourselves and display your abilities to Hui Yuhao, you may now light your lamp. Hanru Oruo announced authoritatively. The first golden light appeared from Tang Wutong. A cold feeling gripped Hui Yuhao's heart. Wutong, why? Following that, 3 other lamps lit up. 2 of the lamps belonged to 2 women who up until now had not lifted their bamboo hats. The last light belonged to an extremely beautiful female student. Even though she paled a little in comparison to Tang Wutong, she was still undeniably very attractive. It was clear that the ladies who ended up choosing Hui Yuhao possessed immense courage, and the confidence to challenge their main competitor, Tang Wutong. Zhong Lishuan nodded and spoke. It seems like we have 4 fairies who have chosen Hui Yuhao. Can I invite all 4 of you to step forward? The 4 lily pads floated forward until they were 50 meters in front of Hui Yuhao. Zhong Lishuan announced, since Tang Wutong messed up earlier, she will be the last to introduce herself. We shall now invite our female students to take turns and introduce themselves to Hui Yuhao. The order will go like this: fairy number 3, number 6, number 11, and then finally number 8. So without further ado, let us invite Sea God's fairy number 3 to begin her introduction. Fairy number 3, you have yet to remove your bamboo hat. Would you like to remove it now? I would like to remove it now. The voice of fairy number 3 was bright and loud. She lifted her hand and removed her bamboo hat. This young woman's figure was very balanced, and exuded a very feminine kind of attractiveness. Her face only had a thin layer of makeup, and her big eyes were very attractive. Her short hair coupled with her brows gave her the look of a very beautiful heroine. Zhong Lishuan announced, you may now begin your introduction. Fairy 3 nodded and spoke. Hello Hui Yuhao. I am Bai Se, but everyone calls me Xiao Bai. As of now, I'm a 6-ringed soul emperor, which is a long way from you. To be honest, even before I entered the inner courtyard, I had already heard about your achievements in the academy. Even though I entered the inner courtyard 2 years before you, you overtook me with so much ease. If I were to be very frank, I would say my feelings are born out of curiosity rather than mere attraction. I have always revered strong soul masters, and hence, whoever wants to take me as their partner must first defeat me. Even if you don't choose me, I would challenge you to a duel in the later segment. That's all I have to say. It's up to you to choose me or not. This self-introduction was truly badass. She didn't waste any time with flowery words, and laid her credentials and thoughts bare. She was a true badass heroine. Hui Yuhao nodded politely as he remained silent. Zhong Lishuan was resigned as she shook her head. Xiao Bai. You're still as blunt as ever. It seems like it will be rather difficult for you to find a husband in the future. You're no different from a man. All right. Now let us welcome fairy number 6. Fairy number 6 was a gentle-looking lady who had not been wearing a bamboo hat. She stepped forward before gently bowing before Hui Yuhao. She spoke softly, hello Senior Hua, my name is Mu Yu. Similar to Xiao Bai, I heard about your incredible stories some time ago. Because I just entered the inner courtyard this year, my abilities are probably not worth mentioning. I just want you to know that I really admire you a lot. Your stories have been my source of motivation, to challenge myself and become better. Even though today is my first time meeting you in person, you have already left an indelible mark in my mind. Her introduction was even shorter than Xiao Bai's, and she did not mention much about herself. But her self-introduction showed a lot more affection than Xiao Bai's. Furthermore, Mu Yu had an enormous advantage in her voice. The way she talked was very gentle and melodic. Even Hui Yuhao was surprised at how perfect her voice was. Similar to how he reacted to Xiao Bai's introduction, Hui Yuhao nodded silently. Now let us welcome fairy number 11. Zhong Leshuan announced. You can also choose whether you want to remove your bamboo hat for Hui Yuhao. I'm sorry, eldest senior sister. As of now, I don't want to remove my bamboo hat. I hope that Hui Yuhao can take it off for me. A calm and clear voice rang out from underneath the bamboo hat. Even though her voice was almost a monotone, one could sense the emotions brimming in her choice of words. Hi Hui Yuhao, my name is Su Tong. I'm a 7-ringed soul sage, and my martial soul is the Ice Sky Snow Lady. Her introduction was even shorter than the two ladies before her. However, her last line was enough to catch Hui Yuhao's attention. Ice Sky Snow Lady? Unless Su Tong also possesses ultimate ice? From what Hui Yuhao knew, even in the extreme north, the Snow Empress was the only Ice Sky Snow Lady around. There was no other known Ice Sky Snow Ladies. No one had expected to find someone with the Ice Sky Snow Lady martial soul among humans. Hui Yuhao was not the only one shocked by Su Tong's words. Even Zhong Leshuan, and Ruoruo, and some of the higher-ups from Shrek Academy were taken aback by her words. Elder Xian turned around and asked Yang Xiaosha, Xiaosha, what's going on? When did we have a student with an Ice Sky Snow Lady martial soul in our inner courtyard? Why was I not informed of this? Yang Xiaosha gave an awkward laugh. Elder Xian, even I was not aware of this. Su Tong was only admitted into the academy recently. When she just entered, she told us her martial soul was a snow spirit, a powerful ice element martial soul. She never told us her martial soul was actually an Ice Sky Snow Lady, and we never detected her ultimate ice ability. It seems like she must have purposely concealed her abilities. None of us expected her to do so. Elder Xian paused before saying, how old is Su Tong this year? Yang Xiaosha replied, she's 20, quite a bit older than Hui Yuhao. However, she possesses an ultimate ice martial soul. It is notoriously hard for a 20-year-old to train one's ultimate ice to the soul sage level. Her future must be unbelievably bright. Elder Xian nodded and said, let's wait and see. Who knows? Yuhao might be able to uncover more unknown things about her. Bai Se, Mu Yu, and Su Tong were all attractive candidates in their own ways. Bai Se exuded the vibes of an energetic and driven heroine. Mu Yu was unbelievably gentle, while Su Tong, like Hui Yuhao, possessed ultimate ice, and was enshrouded in an air of mystery. But even then, they were unable to overshadow Tang Wutong. Zhong Leshuan looked at Tang Wutong and announced, Fairy number 8, it's your turn. While the three ladies were giving their self-introductions, Tang Wutong was just standing there silently, occasionally frowning and stealing glances at Hui Yuhao. She had a confused look on her face as a tinge of melancholy crept across it. Her anxious breathing could not hide the uneasy feelings in her heart. I'm Tang Wutong. And that was all she said. There seemed to be some sort of strange pattern in the way the ladies introduced themselves. Their introductions simply got shorter. Zhong Leshuan frowned at Tang Wutong before announcing, now that we are done with the self-introductions, we can move on to the last segment, Eternal Love. Yuhao, it is now your turn to choose one of these ladies. After you have made your decision, you may leave with her. However, if someone opposes you and challenges you to a duel, you must win in order to leave with the lady whom you have selected. Failure to win means that you have to return home empty-handed. Of course, you may choose from the fairies who did not select you. If you choose any of them, they have the right to challenge you. Hui Yuhao nodded slightly. He already knew Zhong Leshuan had simplified the instructions given for the Eternal Love segment. After all, it was not his first time attending the fated blind date, and he could still remember a large part of the rules. Just when he was about to announce his decision, that he did not want to choose any of them and leave. Zhong Lishuan continued, because we have 4 fairies who have chosen you, they will now take turns to give you a 1-minute confession. We will adhere to the same sequence as before. Bai Se, you may begin. Bai Se stared at Hui Yu Hao as she glided forward on her lily pad. Senior Hui, today is our first time meeting each other in person. To be honest, I only admire strong people, and that is why I chose you. But I must admit that we probably do not hold any romantic feelings for one another. Hence, even if you were to choose someone else, I won't feel too upset about it. Even if you choose me, I will still find a chance to spar with you. To summarize what I have just said, rather than be your girlfriend, I'm more inclined to spar with you. If you were to trash me in a battle, who knows? I might just fall in love with you. Even though Hui Yu Hao was just going through the motions, he was still very much amused by Bai Se's words. In fact, her confession could be summed up as the following: you can make whatever decision you want, but I must fight you. She was a true badass. Whoever married her in the future would most definitely have an enjoyable marriage. She was definitely 1 in a million. Han Ruoruo announced, Mu Yu, it's your turn. Mu Yu followed Bai Se as she maneuvered her way in front of Hui Yu Hao. She took a short pause before confessing, Senior Hui, in my eyes, admiration and reverence is the precursor for love. Before I met you in person, I had heard so much about you. I know I don't have much of an advantage before my outstanding senior sisters, but I still will stand forward to confess. This might just be the bravest thing I have done in the past 10 years. I won't regret my decision, because I really like you. Even if you don't choose me, you will always be a hero in my heart, forever and always. Hui Yu Hao nodded politely in her direction to acknowledge her feelings. Her eyes and voice are too gentle. If he didn't already have someone whom he loved, he might have wavered under such circumstances. Su Tong, it's your turn. Su Tong did not glide forward on her lily pad. Instead, she stood where she was and kept her bamboo hat on her head. The same calm and borderline monotone voice came forth again. I know both of us possess ultimate ice. That's why I'm curious to find out how different we are in terms of our power. You might be the brightest star from Shrek Academy, but I'm also very confident in my abilities. If you can use your powers to take the bamboo hat off my head, I will leave with you. If they were to categorize Bai Se as badass and Mu Yu as gentle, Su Tong would undeniably be haughty. Her haughtiness exuded from her words, and made many of the spectators rather uncomfortable. Hui Yu Hao remained calm as he nodded politely, just as before. However, he had already shifted his attention to Tang Wutong. Even though he knew very well that Tang Wutong was not Wang Donga, he could not resist looking at her beautiful face. Tang Wutong, it's your turn. Zhong Lishuan announced. Tang Wutong nodded as she looked up and stared right into Hui Yu Hao's eyes. The lily pad beneath her did not move, but it began to give off a golden radiance. Yu Hao, we have not known each other for long. But during our first encounter, you mistook me for Wang Donga, and hugged me. I was very angry back then, and really wanted to kill you. Afterwards, we had a couple more interactions, and I started to look beyond the initial hatred I had for you. I began to see some of your qualities, your calm, your quick thinking, and more. Whenever your group faced any form of danger, you were always the one rushing to the front and protecting your peers, sometimes at the expense of your own safety. It was during that time that I found my hatred towards you slowly disappearing. Compared to her self-introduction, Tang Wutong's confession seemed more like a slow recitation of her memories with Hui Yu Hao. Hui Yu Hao was a bit taken aback by her words. He could still remember how happy he was when he had first met Tang Wutong. Afterwards, when we were all by the river, you grilled fish for all of us. After our feast, Nan Nan came over to tell me how you actually only wanted to grill fish for me. That was the most delicious meal I had ever had. What surprised me most was how eating the fish that you grilled for me gave me an indescribable feeling. At that moment, I felt lost. I don't know how to describe that feeling, but I just felt like I really admired you. It was an admiration, or rather, a sense of attraction that came from the bottom of my heart. Even though I could not put my feelings into words back then, I felt really happy. Otherwise, I would not have allowed you to inject your soul power into me back then at the military camp. You should know very well what that means to a soul master. This video will end here.